we have Health Minister Stephen Kinnock joining us now. Really want to talk to you about the vaccinations. Mr Kinnock, absolutely, but we have had a very lively debate this morning. Don't know if you saw Matt Vickers, Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party, saying repeatedly, we need to send people back home, we need to tell where they came from, don't care where they go as long as it's not here. And the government, in their arguments to try and overturn the injunction on that Epping hotel, somehow have got headlines this morning which say those in the hotel have greater rights than people in the country. How has the government got itself on the wrong side of the people of Britain?
We are deeply, deeply frustrated by the fact that these hotels are being used for asylum seekers. That is not what these hotels are for. They're often really valued assets in the local community. And we said in our manifesto that we would get all of the asylum seekers out of hotels. We're absolutely committed to doing that. But we inherited a complete and utter mess on the 4th of July. The previous government had lost control of the asylum system, and we've ended up needing to clear up that mess. It isn't, unfortunately, something that can be done overnight. It does take some time. But what's really important is that the discharge from the hotels is done in an orderly and managed way. And if
where would you discharge them? Sorry, Minister, where would you discharge them to? Your lawyer told the court that it was in the national interest to house these asylum seekers, certainly in the short term. If you lose this case, and we'll know at 2 p.m. today, no doubt the government will already be aware of the outcome. There'll be 138 people who will have to be housed somewhere. No doubt other challenges from other local authorities. Where, very clearly, do you propose they should go?
Well, we're looking at disused military barracks, disused office space, disused warehouses. We're taking action to have those contingency measures in place. But, of course, it's much better if we can do that in a managed way. And a big part of that, of course, is getting the processing done. We've seen a huge increase in processing since Labour came to office. You've got to process people, and if it is established that they don't have a legitimate case to be here, they have to be removed from our country. And we've seen removals, deportations up to 35,000. That's a 13% increase on what the previous government was doing. And, of course, those who are legitimate asylum seekers are then able to work, stand on their own 2 feet, and don't need to be in the hotels. What we had
so why is your... Sorry to interrupt you, but I do want to get on to vaccines. People. You're making very good points here, which people can understand. So how is the government not getting through? Because we are swamped every day with the feeling from people that the government is against them not getting a grip on these illegal crossings in any way, shape or form. Who is making the case for what you're doing and making it properly?
Well, I am on your show today to say that we are deeply frustrated by this situation. We share the frustrations of the British people. This is a terrible mess based on 14 years of neglect and incompetence from the previous government. We are trying our very best and working to clear that mess up. But there isn't a magic bullet. There isn't a magic wand.
Well, one of the magic bullets. We're going to come to vaccines in a second, but it actually does relate to this because it's about individual rights. One of the difficulties here is the European Convention on Human Rights, right? That's what's stopping a lot of deportation. So help me very clearly, Minister. Is it the policy of the Labour government for you to leave the European Convention on Human Rights? You'll be aware that other countries have resolved from parts of it. You'll be intimately aware of the way Denmark, for example, approaches this. You're married to the ex-Prime Minister. Do you think that they've got it right?
It is not the policy of the government to leave the ECHR for the simple reason that that would make dealing with the issues we're discussing today even harder. We've got to engage internationally with our partners across the European Union and globally to get this right and to reform the ECHR, to bring it up to date and up to speed. But if you unilaterally withdraw from the ECHR, your ability around security cooperation, around negotiating on returns deals, all of the things that we need to achieve to get this system sorted will be massively undermined by taking that unilateral action. So that is not something we will do, but we are doing a review of the way that Article 8 of the ECHR is being interpreted by our courts.
Just to be clear, that means people saying... Just to be sorry, Minister, just to be clear so people understand, that means people who are staying here claiming they have a right to be here because they have family, etc.
Yes.
OK.
Yes, exactly. The way that the family clause in Article 8 is being interpreted, we've got serious doubts about the way that's being interpreted. We're also putting independent adjudicators in to speed up the appeals process. It takes far too long to get through the appeals process. We've got to make this accelerated, more efficient, more streamlined. That is the way we get people out of hotels. That is the way that we bear down on the backlog and get this system back on an even keel.
Right, let's talk vaccines. You have this new vaccination for chickenpox, which will be part of a vaccine, the MMR vaccine, coming out in January. We know chickenpox is miserable for youngsters, can be very serious in older people, and also, in rare cases, can be fatal. And yet the take-up is so low of vaccines. Generally, what's causing this, in your view? Is it COVID? Is it suspicious about the COVID reaction? Why are people not embracing vaccination?
Well, we are really pleased that from the 1st of January 2026, this is going to be available on the NHS. And that's a huge benefit in terms of health outcomes. It's also great for parents who don't then have to scramble to get their kids out of their educational settings for 5 days and taking time off work. And it's also going to save the NHS millions in the long run. Prevention is always better than cure. And we're absolutely delighted to be rolling this out from the 1st of January 26. To your point about why we're seeing a decline in take-up of vaccines, that is worrying. And I'm afraid it's something that's been happening for about the last 10 years. There's been an increase in vaccine hesitancy since the pandemic. Unfortunately, I think there's some people out there peddling lies, misinformation and disinformation about vaccines. Conspiracy theories are out there. We have to combat that with strong and compelling arguments based on scientific evidence to show that it's much, much better to get yourself vaccinated, far less risky to do that than to not do it. And that's why we're running these national campaigns on working with GPs and schools and community groups. And we're also targeting particular areas of the country where take-up is particularly low, with catch-up clinics and with a whole range of other interventions focused on particular areas and particular communities. I believe it's a battle that we can win. We've got to take on the conspiracy theorists, and we've got to make that argument.
Is it your plan to legislate against that so-called, I say so-called, misinformation?
No, I think, you know, we live in a country where there is free speech, but obviously we have to identify areas where there is free speech can end up being really damaging to society. And we've got to have a strong plan and strategy for beating those people on their own terms, using evidence, showing why that their lies and nonsense are actually damaging to society, and making that point. You know, we're all in this together, and it's really up to parents to think about the whole community when they look at vaccination. So I am going to shamelessly use this opportunity as well, being on your show, with school going back next week. Please, any parents out there, check that your children have had the jabs that they need to have, because we are all in this together, and prevention is always better than cure.